All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hopping online and taking the time out to listen to tonight's webinar with Mel English. Mel and I have been friends now for a couple of years, and we're lucky enough to work the same area here in Las Vegas. So I wanted everybody to get a chance to hear the information that he teaches. There's this class right here is one of the ones that I got to watch him do at CNCA. So without really any further delay here, Mel, I'm going to hand it off to you. Let people know who you are, what you do, and the webinar is yours from here on out. People, though, real quick, if you have a question, feel free to put your questions in the attendee chat, and or there's another little bubble up top for the viewer audience questions. I'll check both areas. And if you can, we'll take pauses occasionally. Mel will take a pause and we'll answer some questions if they come in. But save as many questions as you can for the end, but I'll constantly be reviewing your questions throughout. Okay, Mel, all yours.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to tell everybody out there I'm sitting 6 feet away from my computer so that we are social distancing, because I don't want to accidentally breathe on anybody. So everybody make sure, and I've washed my hands 4 times before touching my bark, because I don't want anybody to get sick from me. I appreciate. It's funny because I can say that and I get no laughter back, so I get no feedback. It doesn't mean I'm very funny. The idea of today's class is proofing, distraction, and neutralizing. Cameron and I talked about this when I was on his podcast, and I'll be honest with you, I find it to be probably one of the most important things that majority of us aren't trading in, and we should be. This should actually be something that happens on a routine basis. So give you a little background to myself. I was a police officer for just over 28 years. It's quite close to 30 once you count my time from my other agency. But and I was in K-9 for the better part of 21 years. I started working as a detection trainer. Back in those days for our department, you had to do a year-long apprenticeship. And then I took a written test that took me 3 hours to do. So it's like any of you out there that complain about going through a 6-week detection dog course to become a trainer, you've got it easy. And then shortly after getting certified with the detection dogs, they asked me to move on to some patrol work and things like that. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved in writing the post certifications for Nevada Post when we were looking to do that. And I've been a board member for CNCA. I've judged a lot of canine trials, seen a lot of dogs, been all over the country and the world training and having that experience. Those you do see at the bottom is the most pride I have is I do have 10 children. Karen and I just didn't have hobbies. And a grandpa to 7. I'm actually getting 2 more this year, so I'll be up to 9, almost double digits. But wow. It's actually, those are the driving forces as to why I continue to do what I do. A big reason why is I want to show the kids always that it doesn't matter, even if you've achieved something that you set out as a goal. Like one of my goals I left veterinarian school to go chase bad guys as a canine officer. And then as that came to fruition and things started to change, my goals they changed too. I got into training, which I was never looking to do, but I was approached and I fell in love with it. And then I started to thirst more information. I wanted to grow. So it's this snowball thing. And I wanted the kids to always see that no matter what you fall in love with, you cannot sit back on and say, oh, I've learned enough. I'll never say I've learned enough. I'll never say that I have enough knowledge in my life. It doesn't matter whether it's dogs or anything else. I'm always looking for something else to improve upon. And to be honest with you, this is one of those areas that over the years I've looked to improve upon is how can I make proofing and neutralizing and distraction training even better. So we'll jump into the heart of this is why do we do proofing? One, it creates a very clear picture for the dog. We want the dog to understand really is what are the important things that they're supposed to be focused on while they're searching. What odors are important to them. We want dogs that process everything through their olfactory system as it is. We want them to not just be only focused on, hey, I don't care about that odor. I want dogs to explore. I want them to sniff something and say, that's interesting to me, but know that it has no value and move on. So we want the dog to not sniff sterile surfaces constantly and then hit that source odor and that target odor and be like, oh, that's it. And life is too easy for them. They have a very intricate olfactory system and a brain dedicated to processing it. So we want the dog to have to process through that. And what that does is it improves their confidence. It makes them more confident in what they're doing and what they're expected to do. Therefore, they have a cleaner picture, okay, and they learn to discriminate on their own. It's very key, and I'm sure Cameron can agree with this, and anybody else out there that's a dog trainer, think about this. Anything you teach your dog and you repetitively teach over and over again, they get very strong at. Anything your dog finds out on their own and knows that they get something good out of that and it's beneficial to them, they're more apt to do that more often than what you've taught them. Because they've learned it and learned it inside their own learning abilities versus being manipulated to it. We're manipulating all the time, but I'm never afraid to step back and let a dog manipulate the problem to improve himself. And if he can manipulate the problem and figure out what I'm asking of him, I have a better dog. I have a stronger dog. And it goes back to, again, that confidence. And confidence can be a huge thing with a dog. One is it frees up the dog from having conflict. A lot of times we see dogs start to get into conflict when they start to get a very muddy scent picture. They're pretty sure that this pays them, but is it really the cocaine, or is it the plastic, or is it cocaine, plastic, and human odor, or does it have to be this certain little check marks he's got to put in these boxes before he can sell out to it? Or is he confident that, yeah, I've got all these similar odors that are always there, but the one consistent no matter what is the cocaine. And that's the odor that he needs to be confident in. And that frees him of that internal conflict, that is it yes, is it no. When we reduce conflict, we reduce stress. Stress is one of the biggest things that can take a dog from being a champion to knocking him down a peg or two. I happen to be watching that right now with a little dog that got the daylight scared out of him by a parking sign that attached itself to his leash and then chased him like a cougar. And he's learning to re-explore his environment and realize everything out there is not going to try and jump on his back and hurt him. And because of that, he's going through a lot of stresses and stressors, and everything seems to be new, like he's never been trained before. But I'm watching him in his body posture, his internal responses and his external responses every second of the day get better and better and better. And I look back at, man, this is a perfect example of why I need to make sure I'm doing things that lessens the amount of stress that comes on a dog. And that is a huge thing. And we can do that by helping them clear up their scent picture. When we have a dog that's working stress-free and working very confident, what do you think that does for you guys? Completely frees up your ability to have confidence in your dog. If you've spent any time in canine at all, trust me, you walk into certain scenarios where you're like, man, I hope he's not lying to me. And if you're lying about that right now, I know, I've seen you guys. I've done certifications for you guys. I've watched you sit there and turn around and go, alert? It's like, dude, is it an alert or is it an alert? Oh, it's an alert. Okay, well then call it. You know, and that goes back to is you're not confident in what he's doing because maybe you haven't put in the work to set him up so that he can be confident. 9 times out of 10, it's the human factor that gets in the way of our training. It's not the dog factor. So we need to work on that. When we work on that with the dog and we put out these type of problems, what's one of the best things that happens is are we there? I think I lost my sound.
You're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. For some reason, it went dead in my ear. I apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Anyways, that was weird. If something weird's going to happen, Cameron and I found out this morning it'll happen to us.
Yeah, we practiced.
The relationship, the relationship between the handler and the dog when there's no stress and there's all this confidence. I can't even begin to tell you how I've watched handler and dog's relationships change in training. And a lot of times it's in the proofing area. The belief that comes out of a handler knowing my dog can make these decisions and make them right, and I can tell the difference. I love watching guys that go into a blind search and they can tell me, you got proofing aid out there, don't you? Yeah, I do. I can tell. He's giving me the behaviors that says, that's an interesting, strong odor, but that's not my target odor. And move on, and they said, oh, alert, that's it. Okay, what's the difference between that behavioral change and that behavioral change? And when you can study those two different changes, think of how confident you can testify in court. I know when my dog's investigating an odor that's not related to narcotics or explosives or whatever it is, or firearms, but I definitely know what it looks like when he's working on target odor, and they are not the same thing. And not all of us can say that because we're not proofing on a regular basis. That frees up so much dead space in your testimony when you can actually be put in that position and say, look, this is what he acts like when he's on an odor that if he's investigating. This is his behavioral changes when he's not. I always call it look, listen, and feel. I look at my dog, I listen to my dog, and I feel my dog. I can tell you what he looks like, I can tell you what he sounds like, and I can tell you what he feels like at the end of the leash when he's on target odor. I can also do that same 3 things when he's working an odor that's new to him, that's different to him, but it's not an odor that is in that checkbox of this is one of my targets. So what is proofing? We go down here to SWGDOG, Scientific Working Group on Dogs, and this is a lot of times the courts are going to go to SWGDOG and look up definitions and look up things in the best practices area of SWGDOG. Understand that this is the Department of Justice that puts this out there, and they're going to say, what's our definition of proofing? What does it mean that a dog has been proofed? Under the definition, a training technique to ensure that a dog ignores all odors except for target odors. And that's what we're talking about here. And what is a target odor by definition? Odors which detector dogs are trained to detect. That one's complicated, right? Discrimination, the ability to recognize differences between 2 or more stimuli or odors. And distractor, non-target stimuli or odor placed within the search area. So what can our distractors be? Plastic, dryer sheets, car deodorizers, coffee, tobacco. And I put down there a whole bunch of question marks. The reason why is when you're talking about distraction odors and odors that you're going to proof off of, that's really unlimited. And it's really unlimited to what you explore in the world. There's one agency that I talked to, they debrief their fines on a regular basis. And when they debrief their fines, they talk about how it was packaged and what it was wrapped in. And if that's not in their proofing kits, then it becomes part of their proofing kits. And the whole unit trains that week on those proofing aids. So, if I found a whole bunch of cocaine and it was wrapped and packaged a certain way, that wrapping and packaging gets documented, and then it enters into their training program, and it stays in that training program forever. Their training kits are humongous. They're huge, but it's unlimited. Go in there, grab a handful of odors, and go out and throw them. There's nothing wrong with throwing them at the beginning of every scenario and just making sure they're out there for you guys to experience. So when we're proofing, we look at proofing as what we call as neutralizing. We want the dogs to slow down and explore again, investigatively sniff everything. We want them to hunt for odor, not just hunt for the purpose of rotating the toy. That's why when we first start our dogs out, we try and get them to understand that one of the satisfying things is to satisfy that desire to hunt. That way, they're always wanting to explore with their nose. They're always looking back to ingest the environment they're in through their nose. So when we start neutralizing, the first thing we do is we go to a two-dimensional surface, walls with seams, lockers, boxes, pallet stacks. The first thing is we want to keep the search very simple. The reason being is we don't want the dog to have to process the task of searching as much as the task of just processing odors, and then it allows the dog to be more engaged in solving the odor problem than solving the environmental problems that come with three-dimensional top, bottom, over the top when we're first starting out with neutralizing a dog. The dog's focus, because of that, needs to be only on making this decision yes and no versus the different aim. This little dog that you're going to watch here, this is Nico. He now works in Oregon. This wall, if you look, sometimes you get the angle of the camera is just right. You'll see little white pieces of paper. Those are our little white Whatman papers, and they're scented with all different kinds of odors. And I can't remember how many are on this wall. I think it's like 16 or something like that. And you'll actually see Nico pick up on some of these odors as he's going through here. You see no input whatsoever from the handler. Even with Nico finds something, the handler just goes completely still until Nico finds a target odor. So when we're looking at neutralizing odor, is number one is we don't want to make it a negative experience. We really just want the dog to realize that he's allowed to make the decision on what to do. Sometimes that can be really hard for guys to wrap their head around. Is it okay for me? I need to tell him yes or no. The first time I talked about this, I think it was actually the second time I ever talked about this out in public, teaching it. I was a young trainer learning how to teach in public forums in front of guys that had 30 plus years experience. And they dead set on, look, no way. You correct him, you tell him he's wrong, and you put him on source odor. And I'm like, man, how much conflict were we driving into our dogs? And I was trained that way to begin with. When we started talking about teaching a dog to be neutral to different odors, we opened the world up to them to being able to explore odors. And we don't create any internal conflict in the process. We allow them to make the choice. That way the dog's saying no, 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 yes. And that decision is made and marked in a way that the dog's thinking versus avoiding. When you have a dog that's working in avoidance, it's only a matter of time before they'll collapse on themselves, because that stress is just building and building and building. And it makes it almost impossible to get through the system. So for us, a yes reward is you get the positive reward. You get your toy, however you're marking, whether you're using a toy, whether you're using a marker system, it doesn't matter. But the yeses are the positive reward. The no results in just a neutral reaction and we just give them nothing. One of the things I love to lay out and try to explain to people is think of it this way: is you go into a parcel room and there's 8 boxes out there, and they say, "Hey, we need you to search these 8 boxes." Well, for the last 2 weeks, your dog has developed, over the last couple of months, your dog has developed a real heavy like for plastic, and he will hammer plastic, and it looks just like cocaine. You can't tell the difference. So the last 2 weeks, you have been pounding on him with either an e-collar, a pinch collar, your voice corrections, whatever, and you've been telling him, you sniff plastic, you're in trouble. You sniff cocaine, you're a good boy. And that dog is just building 2 weeks worth of internal turmoil over what plastic gives him. Because the 2 months before that, heck, he was happy with plastic. So now you take that dog into the lineup and you run him down the lineup, you get to package number 6 and it reeks of plastic. What do you think his response to that is? Well, I'm not getting anything from Dad because it's completely blind to him, so he doesn't know any better. But that's plastic, and I get a boot put up my butt. I really don't feel like having a boot put up my butt. I'll just move on and go to number 7 and number 8, and I'm done. There ain't nothing here. So you've obviously failed in that scenario because package number 6 has 2 kilos of cocaine in it. But it's not the predominant odor. It's not the main odor that he's smelling. He's smelling plastic way before he ever got there. So now you go to neutralizing, and you don't make it a negative. You just make it into neutral. So over those past 2 weeks, you've been standing there completely neutral on plastic and waiting. Just stand there waiting. And they say patience is an action. And it is when it comes to neutralizing odor. You have to be patient. You stand there and wait. I'm not going to say patience is one of my best attributes. But when I did plastic with my bomb dog, Kai, I waited 45 minutes for the first one. 45 minutes. I was furious. I was so mad at him. I was just livid. I was just like, how am I supposed to trust this bomb dog when he's going to hammer plastic like this and just sit there, keep sniffing it, just hammer on it? And a good friend of mine, Dwayne Layton at the time, would just sit there and keep talking from behind me going, just relax. And it was really hard. But eventually Kai started to move on. And he hit another one. But it wasn't as long as I had to wait the last time. I had to be patient, because being patient is actually an action. And then all the way down until finally he did it right. And it didn't take nothing but a couple sets of that, and he'd find plastic every time. But it didn't look the same, he didn't act the same, and he'd move on from it. So now we take a dog that we've done this with and neutralized off the odor, and we go all the way back to the scenario of the 8 packages. This dog for plastic has seen nothing but a neutral hammer. So he hits plastic in training, and the hammer doesn't do anything. There's no tugging on the leash. There's no input on the leash. There's no tugging, pulling. There's no sighing, and that one's kind of hard for people at times. There's no excessive shifting of the weight and everything else. You have to go just dead neutral and let them make the decision on their own. Remember, 90-95% of what comes into a dog's world is non-communicative information. They're reading your behaviors, and this is one of those important times when you just have to give them nothing. They are totally reading you and trying to get the answer from you, and you have to let them come up with themselves. So when they come to that conclusion and they move on in the searching, now that dog makes that decision. So when we go back to the scenario, he goes down the lineup, he hits plastic number 6, or package number 6, and he's like, oh, there's plastic. You know, I love plastic, but Dad never gets excited about, wait a minute, hold on, wait, nope. Oh, there's cocaine in there too. Oh, now it's not just plastic, it's cocaine. Well, I don't get nothing on the plastic, but I definitely get something on the cocaine. So now you get a positive lockup. The reason why? He was allowed to explore the plastic. He was allowed to venture into what the plastic odor is and say, yeah, that's an odor that I really like, but it's not a big deal. I can move on from that. And the result of that is we end up walking away with somebody going to jail, or at least sees a kilo of cocaine, a couple kilos of cocaine, but we don't. And we have a dog that's extremely confident and positive in his abilities to do his job. So, anybody have any questions on that? I get to rambling, so.
No, so far so good. Let me just double check one of these other areas. Done there, and we are good.
Okay.
Everybody's giving you thumbs up. So continue on.
Good. Again, you see here it requires patience, but it's important. It's imperative. You have to wait them out. Body stays neutral. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this patience thing, because this is where I kind of run into problems with guys at the time is the fear of failure. They see that this dog, when he locks up on a target odor, and they see that as an automatic failure. And it's not an automatic failure. It's actually a good thing. You have a thinking animal, and he's trying to figure out how to solve the equation. So he's giving it a try. It's better than him being just a blind dope going along going, ha, 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 ha. If I have a dog that finds every proofing aid and gives it a really nice big snort and then moves on, I know his nose is working. I know his nose is functioning really well. The difference is what that behavior looks like versus what the target odor. If he's constantly going to each odor and hitting it and then looking at you and you're like letting your shoulders slump or rolling your eyes, it can be very slight behaviors from you that helps him say, nope, that's not it, and off he goes. And you think he's doing great. In reality, he's doing great at reading you. He's not doing great at making his own decisions. So his confidence is always coming from you. It's not a confidence that he knows what he's doing. He's confident in being able to read your disappointment. So I want dogs to fail in these proofing things. I want them to find non-target odor. I want them to learn that it has no value and then to move on, and then I move with them. So when you do this, look at patience as an active part in what you're doing. Look at it as, hey, my guy's going to do that much better if I just chill out and just hang here and wait for him to make the right choice. You're going to get a better, stronger dog in the end. Another thing is when he does make the decision to move on searching, then move on with him as if you were searching and had never stopped. I do see sometimes guys will let their dogs almost start to drown a little bit because they'll go neutral, and then when the dogs start searching, they're still there. Like they haven't picked up on, let's move, let's get going. Because the dog makes that decision and he's like, hey, I'm not going to do anything with that odor, and they move on. Well, our moving on with them at that same time is us confirming to them that it was a proper decision. And now they're not guessing. So our response to them gives them a positive confirmation that you were right, versus them guessing at it and then looking for the answer from us. Guessing at it would be looking at us and then looking up and seeing a body posture change that's negative, a sigh, a grunt, a slight tug of the leash. Those type of things are inputting information to help them make the decision. What we want to do is when they start moving on to search away from the item, we flow with them and they're like, oh, okay, it's all good, let's go on to the next odor. And that helps them understand, and they become more confident in finding these odors and moving on, finding these odors and moving on, finding these odors. And I'll show you some video here in a second. These dogs start banging odors left and right, but they're moving on as fast as can be. I've watched handlers where they're just going to stand there, and they stand there and just let the dog finds it, starts to search on, goes back, finds it, starts to search on, goes back, finds it. And it's like he's never getting that searching on is the solution to the equation. And that is the solution of the equation. he's made the decision to leave and continue searching in a positive manner that's not seeking information from you. He needs to feel that movement and feel you move with him so that he gets that input from you. So this is a firearms dog. You see here, he actually found a couple. Now, he really likes this one. He even paws at it. And, of course, we don't allow him to paw at it. I think there's 36 odors on this wall in total. It stretches the whole length. But look how close that 8 is. That 8 is only those bricks are just shy of 7 inches. So that 8 is only 14 inches above the other 8 and 7 inches to the right of it. And so are those bleeding over on top of each other? Probably. But he still has to come to the right conclusion. And his right conclusion is to keep searching, go back, found the right one, and then there's no hesitation in getting paid for it. If you watch here, you're going to see pauses. You're going to see him pick up on a lot of odors right here. You know where the target odor is. If you look up on the wall, there is a blue dot or a blue piece of tape, and that marks our target odors, so that there's so many odors out on this wall, we don't want to mess up and not reward them. On this wall, just so you know too, he is rewarded with that little ball. There's pieces of that ball and there's pieces of tennis ball. Those are part of their proofing aids. So their toys are cut up and put into the proofing equation too. So just because he's rewarded with it doesn't mean he gets the final because he finds it. And if you don't think your dog will, put it out. See what your dog will do. I had that conversation with a bomb dog once. I said, your dog will find your Kong. We need to work on that. And he goes, no, he won't. I go, okay. So we put out his Kong, and then 4 feet down from it, we put out some PETN and an explosive. And he would actually leave the explosive odor to go back and alert on his Kong. Alert and indicate finished, hold 9 yards, sit, stare, beautiful. And actually, he was stronger on the Kong than he was on the explosive. So you have to make sure that those are part of your proofing equation. Remember, your box is only as limited as your thought process. So open it up to everything. And you guys can see the Whatman papers. This is the nice thing about the Whatman papers. It falls out of the wall right there. So it's no big deal. We just throw it away, put another one out there in the same spot. If they eat it, it's not covered in narcotics or explosives. I don't mix them that way. Some guys do, and if you do have that, make sure you're not letting them put their mouth on it. Expose your dog to Coke or something. But if there's a barrier in between them and you're just getting vapor exchange, you're not going to get them. You're not going to hurt them. So that's the number one way we do proofing, is that right there, is working that two-dimensional surface and pushing the dog to a new limit and letting them make that decision. And, you know, guys ask, well, how soon do you do this? Within the first week of a new dog. I don't waste time with it. I get the dog on and searching and making sure that he understands search behavior and he understands what I'm asking of him in the two-dimensional realm. And then I start asking him to make decisions right away. It's imperative that you do that right away so that we can make sure he's got a clear understanding early on in his canine career of what target odor is and how to make a decision on it. The reason being is if we wait till the end, it'll never fail. You're going to come across odors that he's going to like, and you're forcing him to make that decision in the training scenario anyway. So you're better off to teach him right away how to make the yes and no's. Let him start doing that early on in his career. And again, all that's doing is making him more and more confident in his ability to make the decision and his ability to do it right. When that happens, especially if you're new with your dog, you're going to believe him more and more and more than you ever did in the past. You're going to get stronger. Your relationship with him is going to get stronger. So don't be afraid of it. Don't run from it right off the bat. If there's trainers out there, Start right away. That's my opinion. Start right away. Every once in a while we come across in our proofing scenarios, and I was asked this many years, and we came up with this method, is what happens when your dog picks out an odor and you can proof off of it and proof off of it and proof off of it. He's not going to stop. When we run into odors that are like this, believe it or not, a lot of times, and I'm going to show you a dog here, it's marijuana. For those of you out there running 3-odor dogs, if you run away from marijuana the whole career of your dog, all you're doing is running directly towards marijuana. I don't have to, if I'm training a 4-odor dog, I don't have to show them marijuana ever. And right before certification, I can show them marijuana and they're done. Because they will find marijuana. Always. They always find marijuana. I don't care how much you reduce the odor, they will find marijuana. So you're better off to proof marijuana and neutralize marijuana as a non-productive odor right at the beginning. So this little dog that you're going to see here in a little bit has got that exact problem. She's a 3-odor dog that ends up loving marijuana. But when we come across stronger problem odors, this one, it could be marijuana. With your explosive dogs, you see a lot of problems with caulking and silicones and things like that. A lot, they'll pick out one of those odors and it's a done deal. With our firearms dogs, because we were running on fired casings, the guys are having great success in some crime scenes at finding casings and bushes and things like that for detectives. They're actually doing a better job of doing that than the metal detectors. They called me up and said, hey, our dogs pounded this locker, and they opened it up, and it was a storage locker that had a whole bunch of brass keys in it. And I'm like, we need to be proofing on brass, guys. Because I had told them, go out and get unfired, never been fired before, brass, and put it in your kit. They just hadn't gotten there yet. And it exposed a weakness in their program. So we got out brass keys, and we started putting them out. And then they were dead set on that was the right answer. So we had to stack them. So when we start talking about the stacking the problem odors, is what we do is we go in and we stack a target odor with the problem odor, and they're stacked right on top of each other. We stack them, and then the target odor is then separated out. When we go to the separation, you put out an aid. It's going to be a target odor and a problem odor together. Then you're going to go down several feet, and you're going to put out the problem odor. Then you're going to go down several feet, and you're going to put out the target odor. It's very important that you go in that line, because we want to show them the two can be together, then they can be apart, and each has its own consequence as to what happens. So you're going to see this little girl, and I like to do it in threes. I set up 3 distinct search areas, and when I do that, I'm going to let the dog go through the first 2, and I'm just going to tell them they're doing the right thing. I'm not going to reward it right away. I'm just going to tell them, you're right, but let's keep working. So, again, I'm going to set this up for you. You've got a stack. This is marijuana with cocaine. Then you're going to see her hit just marijuana, and there's going to be no difference. Then she's going to go down and hit cocaine, and you're going to see the handler praise her and tell her that she's a good girl. Now, the praising isn't over the top, because I need you guys to realize this is a dual-purpose dog, and she will bite him if he overpraises her. She doesn't mean it. She just can't help it. Okay? Then they moves on, and he's going to hit another stack, and he's going to reward her on the stack. Then he's going to go down and hit a problem odor, and he's going to ignore her. Then he's going to go down and hit a target odor, and he's going to reward her. And then we're going to move to number 3. Not reward her, he's going to praise her. I'm sorry. I messed that up. He's going to praise her. So this is Roxy and her
Is it playing? Hey, Mel. Well, let's see what happened. Everybody stand by for a second. Let me see where he is at. Okay. He lost his phone. So just stand by as we work through this. Either he dropped the call or, yeah. Thumbs down. We're waiting to see. We'll get him back on here in a second. I'm going to message him. Of course, right when he gets, there we go. Yep, I think he's in the rural area. So the video is playing. It's a little choppy. There we go. There we go. Better. Okay, there's the praise off. Now we're continuing on. All right, Mel, I've been narrating for you for a little bit. If you're back on.
I didn't even know when I left.
So it was right when you hit to play the video, you were gone. So if you want, just replay that video for everybody and then talk through it again.
Yeah. Let me. My problem is you guys have to understand. I suck at doing technical things, so I have to go all the way back to the beginning.
You're doing good, and I think the internet speeds where you're at sometimes give you a little hassle too. But yeah. So go back to full mode there. You can go back to play. There you go, and you can talk through it. Okay,
so she hits and again, the important thing, she hits the stacked odor right off the bat. Bam. So watch her again. She's going to hammer that second one, and that's going to be cocaine again. And there you go. So she gets he does a really nice job. Tom does a really nice job of just staying neutral. You see him start to lead a little bit, wanting to help her move on, and then he goes with her. And then he praises her a little bit. Again, he can't overly praise her because she will bite him. The funds of working dual-purpose dogs. She's a nice little dog. She hit it, and then she forgot where it's at. Is it froze?
There you go. Yeah, it's playing now. You're good.
Okay.
He just praised her and is playing with her now.
Yeah. And so that was a reward on the stack. Now he's going to go back and let her wants to go back to the stack again, and he kind of moves her around a little bit because she blew past the marijuana. It's kind of important. This one's a little short. I should have put a little bit more space through it. She ends up hitting the marijuana, then the coke, and he praises her again. Now he goes into the third stack. So she hits the stack right off the bat. He's a little slow at paying her because she's a little impatient. She likes to look at him. That's a whole other thing. The quality of your indication is another drill to work at another time. Don't get messed up trying to fix 8 different things at one time. Right now, and I told Tom this, we're only worried about her learning not to find marijuana. So we'll work on cleaning up his alert on another training session. Best part is she sniffs the marijuana, makes it fall out, but you guys all know how marijuana is. Wherever it was last at, it smells like marijuana, so she can still smell it. Again, you saw a head check right there, and he's being patient. She looks at him again, and then boom, he pays her. Now, he plays with her all the way back to the truck. It's very important that becomes a big deal. This kind of explains why the 3-stack method. I don't want to reward her in those 3 because then she thinks, and I've experienced this, and when I started doing this, we started playing with this, we started to realize if you reward her on each one of those, they start guessing at everything. It doesn't help them clear up. What helps them clear up is neutral, good girl or good boy, then pay on the double stack, and now they're like super confused again. They go to the non-target, and it's like nothing, and then they go down, they get praised. So now you can see when she goes to that third rep, she's thinking, and then all of a sudden, bam! You can almost see the shock in her when she gets that toy, and that toy's a big deal all the way back to the truck. We'll run this until she's blowing past the marijuana to get to the coke. Hits that first one, gets paid. Goes to the marijuana, gets nothing. Goes to the cocaine, gets praised. Boom, 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 boom. And when we get through it a couple of times clean, then we just take her down to the target odor. So give you guys a chance to look at actually written out there. So you want at least 3 combinations in a row. Make sure you got plenty of space in them. It's not crowded like my second one is there. Use appraise off on target odor. You definitely want to tell her it's right, but you're not quite there yet because we want you to show that you can work past these. When you get to the final and third one is make it a big deal. Really mark that, hey, you haven't guessed, you thought, and now we're going to pay you for it. Again, we're going to repeat several times, and once we've repeated it several times, now we're going to set up an actual proofing scenario. So we'll put out a couple of different target odors and a couple of different problem odors. So this is what she looks like after neutralizing after a stack. So she hits a cocaine odor, and you're going to see her pick up on a couple more marijuana odors. Tom moves down just a little bit, lets her move in. She starts searching again, and she hits another one. Really quick, really simple. Doesn't have to be super hard. Now, I'm going to look here at our next one. So you're going to keep right on going. There is marijuana in those doors, and she doesn't do a whole lot with it. There's cocaine. Just keep going all the way down. I'll give you guys an idea. I got the phone call from these guys that they were having problems with her and things to do because what she was doing is if she found marijuana in a car, she'd bite the dashboard. She actually ripped the dashboard off of a car because they were using the proofing method of wait her out on it. So it became a self-rewarding thing for her to just bite the dashboard until she actually ripped the dashboard out. And of course marijuana is not illegal, and that was the only thing in the car is marijuana, so they got to pay for a dashboard. And they're like, okay, now we actually really need to fix the problem. Okay, I'm going to set this one up for you. This is same scenario. You're going to only get to see a small portion of this search. This search goes on for an extremely long time, pretty much almost all the way around this church. This thing is covered in marijuana and cocaine. And so just pay attention to her searching and pay attention to how often she gives you a pause as she finds marijuana. There is marijuana all over. It's all over this building. So it actually picks up, he's already started searching because it starts at the corner. But if you watch, you're going to see her head check. Again, investigative sniffs. We want her to find it. We don't want her to think that it has the value of cocaine, meth, heroin. We just want her to say, yeah, I can find it, but I'm not going to get anything for it. It's not going to be a problem. So you can see really pauses where she keeps finding it.
Yeah, the video itself is really, there you go, it's trying to play again. It gets laggy, and okay. I know people, what happens is it's your internet connection where you're at. It is what it is. The question, and people can see it now, what you were talking about. You'll see the dog kind of jump up and touch the things that you're mentioning, going through and going down. but I will add as people are watching this. Do you have any of these videos on YouTube, and or if people were to email you to contact you about the videos, is that something you're able to help them with?
Yeah, if you want to email me, if you guys shoot me an email, say, hey, I was on the webinar, can I get a copy of some of these videos so I can look at it and watch what's going on? Yeah, just send me an email. I'm working right now on putting together some YouTube stuff to put up on our website that we just got done building, because I have been asked a bunch of times, hey, can I get a copy of that? Hey, can I, get this, get that? And it's like, it's so hard to put out. But, for you guys, if you guys want to see this again, I not only have this, like the little dog I have in training right now, I've got some really good videos of him. Man, it's like right in the sunlight. You can actually see 90% of all the proofing aids and watch him go boom, 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 boom from each one, and then lock up on the finals. So absolutely, all you got to do is just get a hold of me. Just email. We'll give you the email at the end here. Okay, so
perfect.
It comes to a point in time where you have to put this to work in the three-dimensional category, meaning that take it right out into the field. So this little Honda Civic that we're searching here has 7 aids on each side of the car. 6 are distractors, 1 is a target. If you pay real close attention to how this guy searches, you'll see him find distractor odors. And I actually point some out to force him to go and sniff at it. Just because I pointed something doesn't mean my dog's going to alert on something. He's just going to sniff there, and that's what we want. So you can't be afraid to put him on a distractor saying, well, he's going to lock up on it if I put him on it. Well, then let him do it, because that's what we're working on. If I put my hand on something and, hey, say, check this, and he locks up there like it's supposed to be something, then you have a problem. Don't run from it. Just attack it. So little Nico here is just going to go along, and he searches like crazy. He's a little bit of a spaz too. But right here, he thinks he's in trouble because he got hooked up on me. And you'll see I'm going to put him on specific parts of this car that I know that there's distractors there. And he gets a whiff of it and just moves on. Yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. And then watch the complete difference. Fucking set his feet. He always does that. Sets his feet. And he's like, oh, yep, that's it. And remember, on all of this, he's only finding Wattman papers that are about the size of my thumbnail. And they're down inside the seams. So search number 2 is going to do the same thing. I apologize for this video. It kind of cuts the dog's head off a few times. But this is what happens when you have 14-year-olds being your video crewman. It's a family project.
Hey, you have slave labor with all the kids that you have.
Yeah, heck yeah, and I use it. How do you think I keep all the poop? How do you think I keep all the poop picked up in my house?
Yeah, no kidding.
So, and you even see I put a little pressure on him because well, not that he didn't want to sniff. He was so busy he wasn't paying attention to me. And I even give him a little leash tug and say, hey, I'm telling you to search here for me. You haven't shown me a change of behavior, so you can search where I want you to. Now, I'm even going in. He doesn't respond to that. Kind of block him, but obviously he knows, boom, there it is. Again, that's the outcome that you want, and how you want to finish things up is being able to get that dog to make those decisions in those situations, and have confidence that when you see him lock up on that, you know for a fact, even if you weren't paying attention to see the change of behavior, which can happen, they wrap around the car and all of a sudden you come around the corner and they're locked up on something like that, you have to know. He only does that for dope. I've run so many proofing odors in his life that he only does that for dope. So when we talk about another form of distraction training is the actual point of distracting them on the odor. It applies to anything that removes the dog from the task of searching and or alerting or indicating. So distraction can come in when we're working on odor, or it can come in when we're working on the actual searching itself. It can be physical movements. It can be the toy itself, the reward that the dog uses. It can be handler movements, voices, posturing, presentations. There's all different kinds of things. Why do we do things like this? Again, this is putting pressure on the dog to search at a higher level, to be more focused at a higher level. So now we not only work the dog at making decisions on odor, now we're going to make him make decisions on what behaviors are acceptable and what aren't, and what produces the final result and what doesn't. So he can have background things going on and learn to ignore them. Input that affects the dog's alert and indication are things like tap-offs. Not paying attention to what my dog's doing. He starts to lock up. I reach down and tell him, hey, search this quarter panel down here. Problem was I didn't see the change of behavior, but he's so used to doing what I tell him to do, he'll leave and go over there. So I use tap-offs a lot, and expect my dogs to follow through. Can you still hear me, Cameron?
Yep, we hear you, no problem.
Oh, okay. I just double checking again because my thing shut off, and I was like, and I'm so lonely.
Yep, you're doing
down here.
Yeah, social distancing in full effect.
So, yeah, and then some. So tap offs, leash pulls. Leash pulls are a great one. Why is leash pulls an important thing to work on? Is I cannot tell you how many guys I see do a praise off by grabbing their dog by the leash and pulling their dog off with a leash. It's bad enough with a dope dog. Well, that's like death with a bomb dog. Because what happens is you're moving along, your dog starts to hit the edges of some scent. You don't catch it. And trust me, especially when you're working explosive dogs, if it's a live event, they're setting up a stage and there's people here, there, and all the rest of it. All you got to do is work a political season and you're going to see there is so much stuff going on. You get distracted from time to time and your dog shows you to change behavior and you hit the end of the leash and they're like, oh, Dad tugged on my neck, let's go. You know, odor trumps everything. Well, you got to teach that to the dog. So you got to pull on the leash, you got to tug on the leash, and that dog should lean back against you and say, I don't think so. I'm going to stay right here. Leaving the dog. A lot of dogs are handler dependent. And they're like, again, they're looking for you to give them the solution to the problem. So your dog hits odor and you keep right on walking. Yeah, leash doesn't affect him, but all of a sudden you run the corner and disappear, and he's like, I don't think so. I'm going to go see where he's at. Nope. Again, odor is more important. Touching and petting the dog. I actually like this one. I like to use this one because it lets them know, too, that I'm really happy with them. It's like, hey, you're doing good and everything else, but I'll take that. Once they get confident and they're driving their head in there and I'm tutting and petting them, now I start pushing and shoving them. Now I reach my hands around the front of their chest and I start pulling them back away from it. And I'm like, come on. And they're leaning forward into it and I let them go. And I'm teaching them, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. You stay with this odor. And that just makes them that much stronger over the top of it. So here's a little outside stimuli with, this was the school district when they first had their dogs and they're going through the initial training. This dog is ball crazy and then some. He'll actually bite you over a ball. He will tag you over a ball. So now we're sitting there bouncing the ball up and down. And it took a lot for this little guy to learn it. It's one thing when they're on source and they can kind of lock up on it and they're waiting for it and you bounce that ball. It's easy to clean that up. But to actually get them to search and get the searching behavior down while the distracts are going on the outside, that's when you really start to strengthen their understanding of what you expect. Distractions with the reward. So, thing to remember for this Anna, she did a really nice job because this little guy, he's not a Malinois, he's still got teeth, and he will actually bite you for the reward. He will tag your hand or he will tag you. He's not that way anymore, but when he was brand new in training, if if he saw your hand come flying in there, man, he'd reach out and tag you hard. So it's a big deal now. She's put that toy right over the top of his head. Start watching all these behaviors. Pay attention to how many behaviors this little guy offers to solve this equation. And none of it has anything to do with searching. So he's been pulled right out of what he's expected to do. His game is done for. This is actually edited video. This goes on for a long time. You're actually going to see the ball end up in a different hand here in a little bit, because this game goes on with him for so long, her arms started to get exhausted. Now I know, Cameron, they can't always hear the sound that's in this, right?
Yeah, they're not getting to hear the audio from the video itself, just you talking, you narrating it.
Okay. So the only thing you will hear is, because this dog will tag her, so for those of you guys who have dual-purpose dogs, she will grunt at him if he actually touches her, goes up to touch her hand or touches, to let him know don't, because she doesn't want him to bite her. So that's the only thing she'll give to him, and that has to do solely with just making sure that he doesn't get too carried away that he wants to bite. And she keeps that thing right above his head, and all these different behaviors. He's like, I'm gonna get this thing from you. So I think we took 8 minutes out of this video total when we started to and that's just this first search. He's a very confident little animal that he's going to give it the way he wants to. I love, if you guys can hear too, he's whining at the same time. He's doing a lot of this. I do have dogs bark. I do this with dual-purpose dogs. We were working with the Oklahoma state troopers with the Highway Patrol in Oklahoma, and I was explaining how we were going to do this, and one of their trainers looks at me like I had 3 heads, and he goes, "Man, I can't even get my toy out in front of my dog. He will bite me for it." And by the time we were done, he was holding the toy 6 inches above the dog's head while he searched the locker scene by scene by scene by scene, hits odor, and he just drops it down on his nose. We just have to teach the dog it's not about the toy, it's about the search. The whole idea here is that the dog starts to realize that the searching behavior in and of itself is rewarding, and is rewarding enough to do it, expecting to get the jackpot at the end, instead of rushing to just the jackpot. There's your hand switch. And you could tell there was a little bit of editing going on. So she switches hands. So she was getting pretty tired. At one point, I actually am a nice guy. I could have done this all day. I let her touch the lockers to break his concentration, because she's getting so tired.
Patience.
Yeah, and patience it's an action. It's that actually, I mean, I've been in her shoes. It's really, really, really hard, guys. But if you really want to watch your dog change and make a corner in their searching technique, this is one of them right here. It's funny. She's yelling at him right now, guys. That's what I've been waiting for. So here's a couple of small, short little clips from set number 2. Now, it's not a good quality search right here, but he is trying to search better. Obviously, can you tell that dog's a ball freak? And then here's number 3 here. Again, you see him going back and wanting to just go back searching. So the more you do this, and now you're seeing, look at the tails getting a little bit better. Again, it's not the greatest of searches, but we want him to finally turn into that dog that he searches and is methodical and specific on what he's doing and confident. Look at that nice change. Even with the toy above his head. You can't expect it in the first scenario or the first training session, but work on it. and make it into a perfection. Some of the other things, this is a leash pool. This is a brand new team. They really barely know each other, and you're going to see her. We're working on her being able to walk out in front of the dog and tug and watch. She pulls right off the odor. So all we do is don't help her, let her go back, get right back to it. She lets her lock up again, and now we're just going to make it there's a little tight leash. Watch that neck when she pulls. Just the slightest of tight leash. Comes right in behind. Now this was a decision the handler made. She looked back and broke, and she's waiting for good things. So she's like, you know what? You're not going to be focused. I'm going to walk around here. Boom. She goes back and gets a good quality pay right there. So good little choices by the handler to break this down into simple little steps. She does a nice job. And then eventually she gets to the point with this team that she can walk out front and pull her, and you'd actually watch that dog sink backwards and pull against her to not come off of odor, and that's what we're looking for. This is what we refer to as tap-offs. This little guy is brand new, and he's on all three odors at this point, but he's still working on proofing and search behavior, so he's still pretty green. And you see him come over to see what I'm doing, then he goes back. You see me start pushing a little pressure by tapping. So we'll get that to where we'll go down and they'll be locked up on it. And you start first by even holding your hand there, then start tapping, then start using your voice, then start trying to call them off, then tap, call, and pull on the leash and everything else. Remember, odor trumps everything until finally they get what you want. And it doesn't, guys, you're watching me roll over the toy. Those of you that use markers, it's just when you decide to give them the marker or a release. For those of you that have built in a release on your bomb dogs, I had a release on my bomb dog. I had an out command and he'd out, and then I could give him the toy. It had something to do with not wanting to blow up or something. I don't know. My wife made me do it. So this is, again, our Sparks police dog. She has been through distract training, proofing training, all kinds of stuff. We have so much more marijuana in this room that my training partner, Moon, the big black guy with the sunglasses on, because he wears his sunglasses at night. He's going to be mad at me I said that. He comes out and he goes, man, I want Doritos because I've got a contact high. We flooded this room with marijuana. She has every opportunity. Matter of fact, right in front of her is an open drawer, and there is a 28 grams of marijuana in that open drawer. So this office stinks. And you're going to watch a whole bunch of things all done at once in a three-dimensional category. So he's waiting for her decision. No input for him. Go back to hunting on your own. So now he's like, you know what? You can stand here. I'm going to tease you with her toy. And she loves that stupid little squeaker toy. For all of you guys out there with squeaker toys, like I know for a fact you take bubble baths. So I'll make fun of you with your little squeakers. But again, that open drawer has got marijuana in it. She's not showing anything towards it. Not a thing. We put marijuana in his CNCA certification to actually be able to note in his certification that she was clean on marijuana. He's had no problems since. She completely understands because of that stack. So now what you're watching is we've been working on trying to clean up this alert a little bit, and he's got a long ways to go because that's been something that hasn't been clean for a while. But you saw her trying to offer him odor or behaviors of, hey, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. She's switching back and forth, trying to line him up so that she can get paid. So,
quick question.
What is our real purpose? Why? Yeah, go ahead.
So, one of the individuals I hear asked the question of, well, do you, with your street dogs during maintenance training, as problems on distracting odors are documenting, Are you documenting that you are what you're doing to correct the issue? Are you just labeling the day's training as unsatisfactory? So, are you just saying, hey, unsatisfactory, or actually are you putting in the dog's records that you are addressing the distracting odor issue and how you're doing it? So my answer is I always document and show that I address the problem. I don't just leave things too blank. But
yeah,
go ahead and give your opinion.
I know that there's always the argument out there, don't put too much information to get picked apart in court. Except that when you have a failure, you'd better document very clearly how that failure was overcome. Otherwise, you're just putting in there, yeah, I trained on it. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that mean? Doesn't mean that you have to get down and saying, for 30 seconds, she was allowed to. No. You need to put, look, we did this. This is how we did it. Boom, 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 boom. And how many reps, how many times she was successful. Just like this. I made him document everything on that little Sparks PD dog because it's a 3-odor dog that became a 4-odor dog. But now it's got to go back and say, I am a 3-odor dog. Now, it was never rewarded as a 4-odor dog. It was self-rewarded. So he had to document. We did stacks. He had to explain the stack. She was able to go through that. Then he had to explain the proofing. Then he had to explain how he took a 2-dimensional proofing problem and did it over 300 and something feet, I think was our total, and how many proofing aids were in there versus how many target aids are in there. I couldn't even remember. He'd probably have to be the one to tell you, but there was only one target odor, and it was at the far end. It wasn't like we had a whole bunch of target odors in that. It was just one target odor completely at the opposite end of the building. So yeah, you have to put, you can't, I would never just say, well, not that you don't have a training scenario that ends up being a training day that ends up being crap and you just like, I'm done for the day, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Well, then you need to make sure that your documentation says continuation of training from yesterday where we had problems and how you overcome it. Otherwise, you're going to always just say, dissatisfactory, oh, satisfied. How? Was it a magic overnight or what? You got to break it down. When my dog does great, I don't have to put in there, did perfect. No, 4 grams of cocaine hidden in rocker panel, passenger side, blah, 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 blah. I don't even put in there that he was great. It's assumed that he's great. If there was a problem, dog hit a bag of Cheetos underneath the, right front passenger seat, waited until dog pulled off, went over, hit the odor. Then I took Cheetos, put out scenario, and document the next scenario as a proofing them off of Cheetos. I can't blame them. They're Cheetos. I'd find them too.
And then we had Gloria ask the question if you could give a little better description of tap-offs. I mean, I don't know if she got enough from the video again, but if you want to take a quick explanation of a tap-off real quick.
Yeah. So in a tap-off, when we're running a tap-off scenario, basically what it is and tap-off should come really early in a dog's career. They hit odor, and they're locked up on odor. Basically what it is you're going to try and entice them to leave odor at your command by tapping or presenting a new search area, like you know something more than he does or she does, whether you're a male or female dog. The whole idea is to entice them to leave target to follow your command. I always go back to odor trumps everything. Odor trumps a leash pull. Odor trumps me even reaching down and picking up the dog. If I reach down, if you remember, I was talking about reaching down and grabbing a dog while I'm petting him and pull away, that dog should be fighting me to get back to source. Because unless I reward them on the nose with the toy, or I give them a click, or I give them a marker command, or I give them a release command, he shouldn't leave. So if I go off to the right or left and present a new search area, and I start by just presenting, and then I'm like, here, buddy, here, search here, search here, zoop, 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 or whatever your command is, and I get dynamic, and I'm actually beating on that. Here, search, come here, search, and he's over there going, no, I'm not going to leave there. It's right here. I'm not leaving. That's tap-offs. You're trying to pull them from a target odor to go over and search somewhere where when they're like, I haven't finished this target odor yet. This has not been marked. I have not been paid with my toy. I have not received a marker. I have not received a release command. I'm not leaving. And that's what you want. That's a dog that's totally confident. I am right, and you're just trying to screw with me. Hopefully that answered that question. You still there? Did I lose everybody? I hope not.
You are still here. I was going to say, there's also people asking about, we had somebody ask, could you also clarify praise off, please? Is it just a verbal praise and moving to another target or anything else? Also, to back that question, and I'll piggyback, you can get to that in a second. Ron, the guy who asked the thing about the records keeping, he said, I do, but also, but are you giving ammo to defense attorneys on what kind of issues you got? Hey, Ron, I'll answer that question for you. Tell me if there's a perfect dog that exists, because I fucking want to meet him. Because I've never seen a perfect dog. We all know dogs have issues. We are going to deal with issues. What we want to see on the legal side of things is that you address them, and how do you address them? If you try to go to court and bullshit them and say that your dog is perfect, or you have this quote-unquote 90% accurate dog, we know you're full of crap. We 100% know you're full of crap. That's the 100% part. We understand dogs aren't perfect. We want to see how you train and what you do, and you can't just hide behind this veil of, I'm going to walk into court and drop my 4-inch binder on your desk and scare the shit out of you because I have such a huge binder of training records. That's old school, and that's stupid. You need to have records that show what you do in training, how you address problems, because we all know there's dogs that have problems, because they will march in a laundry list of experts that will show dogs aren't perfect. So we have to stop all the crap, and we have to admit that our dogs aren't perfect, but we do things to address these issues, and we do things that help that dog become proficient at what they do. So we do that by doing exactly what Mel described, by what I'm describing is we document. Hey, we did this today. This dog did well on this, but dog indicated also on this. So in training, a corrective action that we did was put odor out that mimicked this or had that, and we're good. So back to the praise off thing, I'll hand that back off. And of course, if you also want to add any more about the fear of giving defense attorneys information, you know, obviously you can go ahead and do that, because we dealt with the 9th district out here in fun Las Vegas.
Yeah. Here's the thing, guys. Just talking about the defense attorneys. Don't fear the defense attorneys. Fear that you're not giving enough information for somebody like myself. Okay, those of you that may be out there that do CNCA, I'm a certifying official. I can go in and testify on your behalf. I'm the expert that walks in, and I look at your training logs and went, what do you want me to testify to? There ain't nothing here. I can't tell you what this guy's done or hasn't done. I can't tell you that he's worked on anything. So you're running scared of the defense attorney, and you've given me no ammunition other than to come in and say, yeah, he passed certification. There's my expert testimony for you. Oh, maybe you've got a video camera. I can watch him work a little bit. But again, I'll say, just because it's on video doesn't mean it's perfect. I want to look at, well, you know what? I want to be able to go in and testify on your behalf and say, he had a problem on this day, and then this is what he trained on, this is what he trained on, this is what he trained on, and this is the outcome at the final end. Wow, what a great job. Because as a trainer, I'm looking at improvement, failure maybe. What's some improvement, and we've got a valid dog, and that dog's out doing his thing. I don't have a problem with that. I can help you then, because you did document it, and that's our partner. Don't document afraid of attorneys. Document so that you can help your trainers and you can help those people that are going to come in, and you can help yourself be able to look at the information and say, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I did good. And remember, dogs are only here to do one thing. That's embarrass us. They freaking will do anything they can to embarrass the crap out of us. They don't do it on purpose. It just happens. Well, don't fall into that trap of embarrassing yourself in court because you didn't document anything. So it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Now, to go back to
I'll let you continue. I'll let you continue on, and then there's some more questions that came in, and we're starting to go down a wormhole with all the questions. So what we'll do, I'll let you continue on with your lecture here, and then I'll circle you back to some of the questions that are coming in.
Okay. Let me get through this, and then I'm going to do the praise off because I know that one's in there. So I'll finish on.
Yep.
I'll just line these up real quick. Why are we doing it? We want to remove the value of cueing. Everybody hears the word cueing. Look, if your dog is confident in making decisions on his own, confident that he knows if he locks up on odor or he's in a search and the outside entity doesn't matter, and he locks up in his nose there until he's given the okay to move on, then he's much more confident, and you're much more confident. So cueing doesn't enter into this thing because it doesn't have any value. We want to devalue that relationship and value the relationship of trust. Okay? Again, cleaning up and making a very clear and concise odor picture, that's what we want. We want to minimize that internal conflict. We want to minimize that stressors that come out of it. And then we want quality of search behavior with increased confidence in both the handler and the dog. You can stand back and watch your dog work and then step in and help him and say, you know what, it's clear, and walk away feeling pretty good about itself. And then the number one thing is we want to increase our reliability. That's really what we're there for, is to increase our reliability. I guess I'll click one too many. When it comes to how we attack things, it's like, okay, I've had people tell me this before. If I praise my dog off, shouldn't they kill themselves to go back and go back to that source odor? Look, when it comes to praise offs, I don't praise off with a leash. I praise off by grabbing my dog, praising them up, telling them they're super good, pick them up and move them. Well, that doesn't always happen with like Roxy, that little Malinois. If he gets super excited and gets to going at him, she'll take a shot at him. Not to be mean, she just that sensory threshold is to that point that she gets too wound up. So he can pat her on the back, tell her she's a good girl, and then he moves on in the search area and kind of entices her to go with him and doesn't discourage it. He doesn't do that in any other type situation. So it is kind of a little bit of a reward system. It just doesn't carry the value that throwing that toy in there does. Or it's not going to carry the value of a marker. So whatever praise off works for you and your dog relationship, that's fine. What I don't like to see is if you got a dog on a harness, pick them up by the harness. If you can reach down and grab your dog around the chest, pull them off around the chest. I don't like to see being pulled off by the leash attached to the neck, or even the leash pulling on the harness. The reason why is I want them to pull through the leash to go to source. If I have to physically remove my dog, then I physically remove my dog. The praise off just can't be more important than the actual reward itself. It just has to be something a little less, and then we pull them out of the area so they can't go back to it. If we leave them in the area, then yeah, they should go back to the source odor. So hopefully that helped with the praise off a little bit.
Yeah, your screen is in the not presentation. You're showing your screen, but it just shows. There you go. Like
yeah, we're at the last slide. That's why. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Slide. Cool. All right, and I'll start queuing up the questions for you when you're ready.
I'll put these. Yeah, go for it. Hit me with as many as you want. I can't say I can answer them all, but I'll try. So,
okay, you're good. Go ahead and hit your last slide here, and then I got the questions for you when you're. Yep. You go ahead and hit your last slide if you've covered it all. Then if you are, then I'll get the questions for you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you want, I'll just leave this up there, and you can just ask questions.
Perfect. All right. So first one, let's see. Question I got here is, how do you get them to stay at the odor compared to it says, how do you get them to stay at odor then PEOOF? I'm guessing to proof? I don't know. So maybe if Ronnie, if you want to re-ask that question more clearly, then I can ask that again. Okay, so if your dog leaves on the tap off or the leash pull, do you then circle the dog back to the source, or do you just wait for them to go back on their own?
Let them search back. Here's the thing about, I'm not a fan of circling, guys. I don't like we always start at the left, we always go to the right. I always try and think of myself as a windshield wiper. I'm the post, the dog's the blade, and I've never had a windshield wiper do a 360-degree turn. The reason why is that I want my dog to work back and forth, right to left, left to right in front of me, and clear the area while staying in the hunt. If I allow my dog to circle me and come out, they're actually disengaging from the hunt and the task, and then I'm retasking them back in. I don't want that. So when you first start teaching your searching behaviors, don't allow that habit to come in. In my opinion, it's a bad habit. I want them to stay engaged in the hunt from the beginning. So when I do a tap off and they leave it, then a lot of times if I can leave my hand there, I'll just stay there. The dog comes and sniffs. I'll stay frozen until they go back to source and lock up on source, and then I'll pay them from that position. So, which is kind of fun because I can be in some pretty uncomfortable low positions with my old fart back. But same thing with a leash pull. If I go out front or even for the back and it pulls and they come off the leash, then I'm just going to let them have enough slack that they can go back in there and rehunt themselves. Now, if they come back to me and they end up circling on their own or whatever, that's one thing, but I'm not going to purposely retask them in. I want them to make the decision on their own to go back to source, and then I pay them for it. And then on the next rep, I'm just going to either do the tap off a little less and have them stay there and then pay them, or I'm going to pull on the leash a little less, and then I'm going to work my way back up so that they're successful.
Okay, so we have another question. This one is, I'm an HRD dog handler, and though my dog works off lead in a wilderness scenario, most of the time, I do a lot of reinforcement and small exercises in a more of a 2D scenario to work on a particular aspect of search or indications. And it works great, but curious if you have any particular tips translating these exercises that you described back to her dog's real-world off-lead work.
Actually, there's a lot of things. Well, because I was at a search one time, and they had what they thought was a grave site. They run a remains dog on it, and we get final on it. So the coroner tells us that it was somebody buried their dog. It wasn't human. So hopefully you're going out and putting out decayed animal tissue or other things like that in your search areas, because human remains and dog remains, they're not the same. So yeah, you could be doing this in a controlled environment, even out in your search area, as long as you're watching your dog work and stuff, and they should be able to find dog remains, cat remains, feces, start going in. Again, anything that they could come in contact with out there that might pull them off and get a change of behavior or get them distracted from their task, those are what your kit should look like. So your kit's going to look a whole lot different than the drug dog kit, but it's still going to be a proofing kit. It's still going to be those type of things. Your dog locks up on a training aid and you're 30 yards out. Well, start calling for your dog. Come here, come on. You know, if you have a release command or whatever, and release your dog, or they wait for you to come up, and however your pay system is, it doesn't matter. But you can have your own version of tap-offs. Start giving new directional search commands and all the rest of it. If they're locked up on odor, they should stay with odor. They shouldn't leave. So even though they work off leash, you can take the same idea and take it right out there. We do it with tracking dogs too. So you can do it with tracking dogs.
Back to the testimony thing. I want the individual asking the question about testimony and record and stuff. We're not singling you out. We're singling out the people with that mentality, because he had posted too many past testimonies they've had to create that perfect, the dog is perfect, along with from TV to movies, along with cases from ratio, hits per fines, from interdiction stops from the 90s, to where federal judges look at if the dog is not perfect, then it is shit. Also, too many folks are scared to testify that the dog had an issue and how it was corrected. On a personal note, you know, he was saying he wasn't scared. And I want you to know, too, I'm not singling you out. I'm singling out that mindset, the one that we're talking about of I don't want to write anything down, you know, because that is not the mindset to have. We understand, and I have, thanks lately to being brought into the academic world, as Mel knows, some of you guys know, doing stuff with Nathan Hall and Brian Hare and stuff like that, has gotten me into reviewing a lot of case law. I can clearly tell you that the legal system clearly understands the dogs are not perfect. They have no problem with that. I mean, I even saw a case with a dog, documented training record showed at 52% accurate, and that particular judge still said that met that what was needed for probable cause. Obviously, we know that can vary. What I'm getting at, though, is in general, people do not fear the fact that the dogs aren't perfect. We know they're not perfect. We know they're going to have issues. Also, thanks to the last Supreme Court case, Florida v. Mathis, it's all about your records, documenting your records, being honest about our records, showing the good and the bad, and then showing how we address the issues. Because, again, we know, and there's plenty of the experts that are out there in the dog world that are helping us out with the research, showing us that, hey, we understand the dogs aren't perfect. And, in fact, if I saw a dog at, you know, honestly, in that 90 percentile range, I know there's probably a flaw there that's accounting for why that dog is showing so good. I also recommend all handlers challenge yourself by doing, you know, Mel and I were just talking before it aired about the odor recognition test. Those that have heard me from the podcast or heard the interviews or heard Nathan Hall on these webinars, the odor recognition test is a good baseline, and it addresses many of the things that Mel's just been talking about throughout this lecture. Is if you want to see that your dog isn't hitting distracting or proofing odor, then have it. It's going to be in your odor recognition test. Your dog should bang out the target odor no problem when presented in a scenario like that. So these are just things that are going to constantly help you. And by doing the odor recognition testing every so often, it clearly shows and is documented that your dog is not indicating on anything else other than the trained target odors. So that will help you out. The case that somebody just asked what the case was, Florida v. Mathis. That was the one that made it to the Supreme Court level. All right. The other questions we have here is, how can proofing be utilized in a court setting in regards to states that no longer find marijuana to be criminal, or in a way to enter the vehicle when the dog was originally trained on that odor? I'll start off, Mel, and then I'll let you kind of finish it. Here's the sad part. Here, I can tell you through cognition that it's very difficult for the dog to forget, in a sense, for lack of a better term, but to not respond to. I can train the dog not to respond. But what I can't fight is that dog's memory, that cognitive part, the memory that they've been reinforced, let's just say hundreds or possibly thousands of times on a particular odor, and then now told no longer is that odor valid. Can it be done with certain things? Yes, but here's your other issue you deal with. When you do a traffic stop and you do a search and your dog indicates, what's also a odor or a substance that's also with the now illegal ones? Your marijuana. So, can we do certain things? Yes. Can we do it to a level that can match or meet legal scrutiny or meet the scrutiny based on science? And will you, as a handler or trainer, do it at that level that shows that it's that way? That's the crux. That's the problem. Because there's things that we can do, but to do it consistently and reliably and continue to show that it's reliable to a legal scrutiny level is the difficult part that most canine units face. So that's why those of you that are like, oh shit, what do I do now? I got this dog that's trained on marijuana that now I have to go to, our state's now legalized it. No one's saying the dog is no good. The dog can be used in many other ways, and Mel will speak to that too. But to keep up with the level of scrutiny that you would have to do and documentation to show, because you need to do independent testing constantly to show the dog is not going to give you an indication on marijuana on searches that are completely blind to you, to include a search that has no odor present to validate it all the way around. We all know many agencies barely do what's enough to keep up their maintenance training, let alone do the amount of training necessary to document, show, and validate that your dog is not indicating to a formally reinforced and trained odor. That's how I'd answer that question for you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. It's a super tough one. And here's the thing. Way back when Washington went legal and they were looking at flushing all their four-odor dogs and what they do and everything else, we got approached to change a Springer Spaniel from a four-odor to a three-odor. And did we do it? Yes. The problem is it was extremely adversive. It was very hard on the dog because we could wait because this dog been on the street for 2 years, guys, and we ended up using. I'll be honest with you, we used an e-collar every time the dog got on marijuana, and the reality is it's still not 100%. I still couldn't tell you that dog wouldn't. And it was like, it's just not worth it. Here's what I will tell you, is if you get a four-odor dog and you get an alert and you go in and you find, there's some marijuana, but there's also some methamphetamine, what is the dog capable of finding?
Yep.
So you go back and you explain the science of the olfactory and the fact the dog has the ability to discriminate and place value both on marijuana and value both on cocaine, or value both on marijuana and methamphetamine, or marijuana and heroin. So leave it to the lawyers to argue whether or not that dog found the marijuana.
Exactly. I was just going to say the same thing. I can argue just as hard that dog likes methamphetamine more than it likes marijuana, and say that alert was related to the methamphetamine that your client had in the trunk, and not the marijuana that he had in the back seat. So, are four-odor dogs invalid? No. In my opinion, they're not, because of that exact reason. However, you're foolish if you are starting off a new dog and even put the marijuana on it. Don't go down that road. You're just bashing your head. I still know of an agency that thinks four-odor dogs, plain and simple, because over a certain amount, it's a felony crime and blah, blah, blah. It's like, time out. Why even go down that road? Who's going to prosecute on it anyways? Unless you're trafficking. And by that time, there's so much dope there anyways, you probably had everything before the dog ever did anything. So, with the new dogs and stuff, go straight up three-odor. And I'm going to tell you straight up, start proofing your dog on marijuana right off the bat. Because I don't know what it is with dogs and marijuana. It's the easiest odor in the world to train with. And it's the easiest odor for them to find. So teach them right off the bat with your three-odor dogs to not go on it. The worst thing that you can do is say, well, I've never exposed him to marijuana. And I will look at you and say, yes, you have. I know.
The very first time you searched the suspect's vehicle, you exposed that dog to marijuana. And if you found target odor, you exposed that dog to marijuana. So don't run from it.
Not only that,
you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Everybody's dope is also, whether it came from, has already been contaminated with marijuana anyway. So Mel's exactly right. From the beginning, have your marijuana out as a distracting odor, and you're documenting that. You're showing through any number of different ways, odor recognition testing, the training methods we discussed here. Your dog is not showing any interest or indication to marijuana, and it focuses and gives indication, or whatever the word you're going to use, is only doing that to the trained target odors, which would be your 3 odors that you work with. So, yeah, and I said the same thing that you did when I talked to Ted Dowse on this subject on the legal side. He's like, make the lawyers work. Make them, especially when you got multiple drugs there, and the dog, let's say, cocaine and marijuana, have them do the fight for you. You're the dog handler. You train the dog to indicate to those illegal odors. There was the illegal odor that was present, along with, let's say, the marijuana that was there, but have them do the battle for you. You presented the case. You found the narcotics that was illegal. Your dog indicated. Have them say which one was the one the dog indicated to, because he said that's what their whole job is, to argue. But so many of the lawyers these days want to just toss away the cases because that's the easy answer. And there will be some type of directive at some point through some legal cases. This is all still so new. A lot of them haven't made it through the higher levels of the appellate courts or even its way to the Supreme Court at some point. But yeah, until then, do what you do. Do your job. And let the legal side fight it out for you.
Yeah. Not all the judges are out there to totally tear us apart. There's always those that have their agendas and all the rest of it. But realize, guys, that most of them out there are reasonable. And they're going to sit and listen to your attorneys. And if your attorneys are right off the bat, well, you got a 4-odor dog, I ain't going to deal with it. Hey, man up, man. That's what your job is. You don't like it, and and he's ready to flush a good case of yours, guess what? You have recourses too. Stand up for your case. Go above him. Then if it all gets flushed, move down the road. Who cares? Go find somebody else. At least the dope got off the street and move on. But, it's not fair to look at a program that's got a dog that's been on the street for 3 years and go in and say, oh, we're flushing the program because they just legalized marijuana in our state. No. Let that dog go out and do his thing. Let him do his work and let it get through the court cases. It's not our responsibility to try it on the street. It's our responsibility to develop a bill, probable cause, and send it to the attorneys. Let them fight it out, and don't take it as personal, guys. Let your dog just be successful. Continue to do your thing. With those dogs like that, I just wouldn't put out marijuana anymore. Doesn't matter. Just don't put it out anymore. Don't have it in your training logs. Don't even worry about it. He's still going to find it. I'm telling you, first learned, first remembered. And that goes back to the cognitive thing that Cameron was talking about. Their memory's there. And you know what? You have to put a dog under so much pressure. So much pressure to get them to basically go in avoidance of it. Well, what did I just teach the dog again? Go back to that scenario I gave you guys before. So now he's in a car sniffing and it reeks of marijuana. What do you think that dog wants to do? Get the freak out of that car. I don't want to find the hidden compartment full of meth. I want out of this car. This is stress. Mm-hmm. Don't do that to your dogs. Don't even try it. I'm telling you, stay away from it. Work your dog to a good, happy career-ending time, and then retire him and start new. That's my opinion.
Here's another good question. It says, if the dog is biting or scratching at the distraction odor, would you still recommend being neutral or having that neutral reaction and patience if you can set up training in a manner that they will not damage or get the self-reward from that undesired behavior? So how do you handle, obviously, I know the answer, but I want you to go ahead and give it to them, dealing with dogs that aggress at non-target?
It depends on how, if it starts to propagate itself and starts to get really, 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 really strong, then you have to go back to, what I do is I go back and restart the scenario. I take the dog out of the scenario, I go back, I set them, and I restart. And if they start scratching again, I go back, I set them, and I restart. If they scratch again, I go back. And it doesn't take very long before the dog realizes every time I scratch, he takes me back there and makes me sit. I'm not going to do that. So he learns that there's a consequence to that behavior, and then it goes away. Because what you'll find out is if he does it there, he'll start to offer that behavior on source order. And then you have a problem. a while ago, I read this really good article, and I wish I have the article sitting on my desk. I just can't remember the name of it. And I'm in Libby, Montana, not Las Vegas. But it goes to the fact as if we allow a dog inside of a training scenario to do a specific thing that is unwanted, but it happens to be at that point in time that they should be rewarded for what is wanted, we can create a lot of conflict and problems with that dog. And yet the dog is guessing which one it's getting paid for. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. So even though we're ignoring them sniffing at coffee hidden in a wall or a seam or something, and they start pawing at it, is it the pawing or is it the sniffing? Is it the rest of it? We can kind of solve our issue with the pawing portion by teaching them, if you do that, I'm going to take you out and restart you, and you have to start sniffing all over again. And the sniffing behavior that you were taught in the beginning of your training and we expect from you. And if it stays there too long, then what I would do is I'd take him out of the proofing problem, go straight to simple search. Sniff, get paid. Sniff, get paid. And let them know when you're sniffing at stuff, you're not allowed to paw at stuff. So, and Cameron might have some more suggestions, so I can steal that and put it in my toolbox because I'll steal anything.
Oh yeah, no, every good dog trainer is one that can take information, steal it, and then reapply it and call it our own.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I was actually answering another question as you were doing that on the thing where the question was about stacking odors and being close together, and I was saying to kind of piggyback what you're saying is I keep those things they're close together because I want the dog to find the right answer pretty quickly. They can understand the wrong answer is here, right answer is here, and it clarifies to the dog very quickly. This one pays. Like you said, odor trumps everything. My spin on what you just said, I always call odor pays. No matter what, odor pays. If I do this, odor pays.
Right.
So in that situation, when there's the two present, non-target and target, the only thing that pays is target. And by having them fairly close together, it makes it very clear to the dog, oh, this one gets me something, this one doesn't. And then, of course, you can distance them out. But because what happens is, or I've seen happen sometimes, is people will put a distractor out that has a value to the dog in some way or another, and then the right or the target odor is far enough away that the dog isn't able to find it quickly or easy enough to understand that this one gets nothing. Even though you're doing nothing, there's still some satisfying element to it, but the right answer is too far away, so it takes forever to get there, or it takes the handler moving or doing something to get them all the way over there to it, and the dog just actually utilized that information to solve the problem versus itself, like we've been saying throughout this webinar, is allow the dog to make decisions. So I want my options close enough together so that way the dog realizes the only thing that pays is the target odor, and that they're close enough together that non-target gets me nothing, target gets me something, and it's very clear to the dog.
Yeah, and when you're stacking, remember the whole idea of stacking odor is based on stacking a problem odor, not all proofing odor. But when you stack an odor, you want to make sure that very first stack, the stacked odor, is both of them touch that. When that dog sniffs, he's reading both odors, and he's smelling both odors, and he gets paid, and you're like, well, I just paid him for marijuana. No, you didn't. You paid him for cocaine. That's why the next odor that he comes to is the marijuana, which he now is ignored on for that dog in that example. He's ignored, he's proofed on that, and then moved down and praised on the cocaine. We're giving them a little bit of a confused picture, then we're giving them two very clear, distinct pictures. And you have to have that not too close that they're bleeding on top of each other, but close enough, again, like Cameron said, that the dog doesn't have to lose focus on what we're trying to accomplish, and that the equation is run kind of quick. And that's why we want to run those quick and 3 times and then jackpot at the end. You know, there's no that one video, if you watch that, when he rewards her on that third one, she about jumps out of her skin. She was so excited. And he had to, when he got her back to the car, he said, it took me a while to get the toy away from her. She was like, no way, I worked hard for this. I'm not giving it back. You know, we did that I think 3 or 4 times, and then took her over and ran proofing, and she was fine. You know, she was fine. Again, she had developed a self-reward system, but it was nowhere near as potent and important as the one that involves a relationship with the handler, which involves drive, the relationship with the toy, which now brings in some prey and other things, play and all the rest of these things. And then, so, you know, just biting on the dash is just frustration, and it is self-rewarding, but it doesn't have these additional layers that brings in more value. So she never took her reward system all the way to the top where it has all this tremendous value. And now we have a dog that totally loves marijuana because it can solve its own problem with the reward. So that's why you have to get on top of these things right away and don't run from them. They ran from this for just a short time, but they were trying to actively solve the problem. But not a lot of people know about stacking, and not a lot of people they're afraid to do it. It's scary to say, well, I'm going to put, you know, a non-target odor with a target odor, I'm going to pay them. So, you know, you just have to understand. I do some of the things I do because I've taken the risk, and I share it with you guys instead of keeping it, you know, in my pocket and be that big secret. I share it with you guys because I want to say, look, I've been down the road with a lot of dogs, and it does work. So give it a try. If you're having that problem, you're already having the problem. Try it. You know, you're not going to, well, I have a problem, now I have a problem. No, you had the problem to begin with.
Yep. No, so those that want the videos or want to reach out to you and have more questions, what's the email they can have to get a hold of you? And I'll actually add it into the email that goes out after this of the recording. But those that are listening and watching, what's your email for everybody?
It's mel@battleborncanine.com.
All right. So mel@battleborncanine.com. And that's K number 9, correct? All right.
K number 9.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and give your information. I'm sure we'll be doing more of these things together. But I wanted to, like I said, again, thank you for your time and spending this with us. And if everybody enjoyed it, thank you. Thank you for all the thumbs up. But again, it was great information for everybody.
No, thank you. Thank you
all
for
right.
everybody that jumped in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love this stuff. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. It was super fun. I had a great time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And until the next one comes out with Dr. Nathan Hall on May 19th, I'll be doing part 4 with him. So all of you guys that have been through part 1, 2, and 3, you can get part 4. All of these webinars, to include this one, are now on FordK9.com. And you can go download those webinars. You can join the Ford K9 Club channel, where there's always going to be 2 webinars every month on there for $25. So you can pay the $25 and get 2 webinars a month, or you can pick out the ones you want, cherry pick the ones you like, and do those on the normal recorded webinar channel. So go to the website, do what you want. If you got any questions, you can always get a hold of me at Cameron@FordK9.com. So again, everybody, thank you. And until the next webinar, we will see you then.